everyone. My name is Justin Meeks. And so let's start with, I believe with the birth of millennials, it is apparent that there has become a distinction between them and the older generations. So I believe we can all agree on that. And it comes in many forms, but the one I'm going to focus on is multitasking. So when I look at the older generation and my family traditionally, I see them doing things and focusing on one single subject at a time whenever they're doing any task. They don't try to mix and match or do anything like that. When I compare that to my friends, while they do homework, while they study, they're texting each other, they're listening to music, they're on the web, etc. So with that information in mind, I propose that media multitasking is almost always detrimental to learning capability. And what I mean exactly by media multitasking is when you use, say, a TV, internet, a radio, in conjunction with one another at the same time. So, my first claim is that media-based multitasking decreases your efficiency and accuracy. My second claim is that media-based multitasking lowers test scores among students. My fifth claim is that media multitasking hampers the brain's functionality. So back to my first claim, which was multitasking decreases your efficiency and accuracy. Looking at an experiment done in which they separated groups between people that had one task and people that had to do both tasks at the same time, and comparing the data with those, we see that when doing an auditory task and only doing one task at a time, the minimum time was 20 seconds and the maximum was 184. Comparing that to multitasking, the minimum time was 23 seconds and the maximum time was 200 seconds. Now if we look at this for the auditory, for the visual task, people doing just one task at a time were able to identify 29 objects, as opposed to multitasking only being able to identify 24. So looking at this data, along with the data shown in my next point, which states that, and I quote, despite negative effects of multitasking, people continue to combine media use with other activities. We found that individuals want to multitask to satisfy needs for information, yet when they actually multitask, they satisfy hedonic needs instead. Thus, while multitasking with media may decrease the efficiency of work, there's a pleasant behavior in which individuals continue to engage. So going off of that, I'm proposing basically that we as millennials, even though it hampers our efficiency, we continue to do these things because it's fun. On to my second claim, which is media multitasking lowers test scores among students. Looking at a study, it was found that 70% of students spent half their classroom time working on recreational activities, such as sending emails, instant messaging, playing games, and other non-academic activities while attending lectures. They define this as distracted multitasking, as engaging in a group of tasks or activities in which cognitive resources are used to process information that is not directly related to the course material. And the researchers found that the more time students spend in browsing sessions, the lower their final grade. So some more evidence for this. In a survey, 935 college students were asked if they engaged in multitasking activities in class. And the results showed that a majority of the students reported performing 2 or more tasks simultaneously, switching rapidly back and forth from one task to another. About half of the students also admitted that multitasking interfered with and influenced their ability to focus on core activities, such as reading for academic purposes. Following on that, multitasking can distract people using a device as well as peers in the classroom. So, for example, if you have a laptop in the classroom and you're surfing the web on it per se, the study is saying that it's not just you that's being distracted, it's also the people around you. Move on to my third claim, that media-based multitasking hampers the brain's functionality. So media multitasking leads to loss of brain density, as shown by researchers at the University of Sussex in the United Kingdom. They compared the amount of time people spent on multiple devices, such as texting or watching TV, to MRI scans of their brains. They found that high multitasking had less brain density than anterior cingulate cortex, which is the region responsible for empathy as well as cognitive and emotional control. It's also been found that media multitasking lowers your IQ. With a study done at the University of London, participants found that when multitasked, experienced IQ scores declined as if somebody had smoked marijuana or had been up all night. To conclude, media multitasking, while something that we all do, I believe, is almost always detrimental to us in many different ways and the people around us. And that's all.
Did you want to give me that outline back? You just pass it over. These people work. Thank you. Okay, Justin, the proposition is introduced nicely. I like the kind of way you refer to both your friends and your family members and do the little contrast at the beginning. That sets up the issue that you're talking about. There's a reasonable preview of what the supporting points are going to be. You kind of explain a little bit about what the nature of multitasking is. So you've got a good basic definition there. You signpost the secondary points reasonably well. I do think that sometimes you rush a little bit in the explanation on them. The evidence, I think, is part of the it shouldn't be as big an issue as it is, because I can tell that you've got data and information that you're citing, but you're not giving us sources on most of it. It wasn't until the third point that I heard reference to the specific sources for those studies, University of Sussex and University of London. Before that, I heard a study or a survey or a study, and those are not very clear citations, and you need to definitely be clearer in the citation of the information. Usually you describe what the research consisted of, and I thought that that was pretty interesting. You are trying to make some big inferences from a couple of pretty narrow pieces of research. That doesn't mean that it's not possible to do that, but it does mean that you're asking us to accept something on what might be mildly sufficient grounds. So I think you probably could use a little bit of more data, especially on the first couple of points. Your third point, where you're talking about the impairment of our ability to think, or even lower IQ, you do have some, like I said, you cite the sources there. You had a couple of sources that document that particular point, which I thought was reasonable. One thing that I think might be necessary is whereas you had some like statistical information from the studies about what percentage of people couldn't remember something because they were multitasking in the first point, we don't really get any statistical information in that last point. We just get a mild comparison to people who stayed up all night or smoked pot, and I think that that's okay, but I'm not sure if those are long-term consequences or short-term consequences, or whether or not that matters. So I just think there's some things that aren't quite as explained as they need to be. Your delivery is a little bit off. I think you need a little more, like you said, practice. You don't have to have it memorized, but you do want to do a lot less reading than you're doing. And the conclusion felt a little bit awkward. You don't want that, that's it, exit line. Go back to your proposition and use that as the exit line. All right, thank you.